In a splendid kingdom, King Vikramendra ruled from a palace of wonders. The most magnificent room was his bedchamber, filled with luxury. Walls painted with epic scenes, plush carpets, and the scent of jasmine and sandalwood. At its center stood the king's bed, a masterpiece of carved wood, gold, and jewels, with a mattress soft as a cloud and silk sheets. But the king wasn't the only one who called this bed home. Hidden deep in the seams lived Makari, a wise, discreet bedbug. Makari survived by being patient and careful, taking only a tiny drop of the king's blood each night, never enough to disturb him. For Makari, the king's bed was a world of safety and comfort, but she knew her survival depended on absolute secrecy. She lived by a strict code: be patient, be quiet, never be greedy. This discipline kept her safe and well-fed for years. Makari respected the king's need for rest and understood that any mistake could mean disaster. She had found the perfect balance, enjoying the finest life a bedbug could imagine without ever being noticed. But change was about to come to her peaceful world. In the grandest bed in the kingdom, Makari's careful life was about to be tested. And so the story begins. One evening, as servants prepared the king's bed, a new visitor arrived, a flea named Chickney. Chickney had journeyed far, always searching for better food and comfort. She hopped off a palace guest's clothes and was dazzled by the royal bed. The silk sheets and the promise of a king's blood made her heart race. As she explored, she discovered Makari peeking from the mattress seam. "Hello, you're lucky to live here," Chickney chirped. "I'm Chickney, a traveler. May I stay? I've never tasted royal blood." Makari eyed her warily. "This is my home. The food is good, but survival here requires patience and care." Chickney pleaded, "Please let me stay. I'll follow your rules, I promise." Makari hesitated, sensing Chickney's impatience, but finally agreed, with a warning. "You may stay, but you must follow my rules exactly. Our lives depend on it." Chickney nodded eagerly, promising to be the best guest. Makari hoped she hadn't made a mistake. The peaceful bed now had a restless new guest. Two tiny creatures, one cautious, one impulsive, prepared to share the king's bed. The night was about to change everything. Makari's rules would soon be put to the test. The royal chamber, once a sanctuary, now held a secret tension. The stage was set for trouble. The king's bed was no longer just a place of rest. It was about to become the scene of a lesson neither would forget. Makari explained the rules of survival to Chickney. First, patience. Never bite the king when he's awake. Wait until he's in deep sleep, when his breathing is slow and steady. Second, self-control. Only one gentle bite, just enough to survive. Never get greedy or careless. If you wake the king, it's over for both of us. Do you understand? Chickney, barely listening, agreed quickly, her mind on the feast ahead. "Patience, one bite, I promise," she said, but her excitement was hard to hide. Makari watched her with concern, sensing trouble. "Remember, our lives depend on these rules," Makari warned. The two hid in the mattress, waiting for the king's arrival. Makari calm, Chickney restless. The king would soon come to bed, and the test of discipline would begin. The fate of both creatures now hung on Chickney's ability to listen. In the silence, Makari hoped her guest would heed her warning. The royal bed was a place of comfort, but also of danger for the careless. The night grew still, and the lesson of patience was about to unfold. The king's peaceful sleep was the only shield they had. Would Chickney remember the rules? The answer would come before dawn. The balance of the royal bed was more fragile than ever. The story was about to take a fateful turn. That night, King Vikramendra entered, exhausted, and soon drifted into deep sleep. Makari sensed the right moment and whispered, "Wait, not yet. Patience." But Chickney, overwhelmed by hunger and excitement, ignored her. "I can't wait," Chickney whispered, darting out and biting the king hard. The sharp pain woke the king instantly. "Ouch! What was that?" he shouted, sitting up. Furious, he searched the bed, rubbing his swollen arm. Chickney, panicked, hid elsewhere, but the damage was done. The king's peaceful chamber was now filled with anger and chaos. Makari's warnings had been ignored, and disaster had struck. The royal bed was no longer safe. One moment of greed had shattered years of careful living. The king's wrath would not be gentle. The consequences of impatience were about to unfold. The night's peace was lost forever. The lesson was about to become painfully clear. The king's shout brought guards rushing in. "Something bit me, find it and destroy it," he commanded. The guards tore apart the bed, searching every seam and fold. Makari, hidden deep, trembled with fear and regret. "You fool, Chikni," she whispered. "You've ruined everything." The guard's search was relentless, lanterns casting frantic shadows. Makari's careful life was now in grave danger because of her guest's greed. Finally, a guard spotted Makari and pressed his thumb down hard. In an instant, Makari's life ended, a victim of another's impatience. The guards reported to the king. The pest was found and destroyed. Years of wisdom and caution were erased in a moment. The royal bed was cleared, but at a terrible cost. The king's comfort was restored, but a quiet tragedy had unfolded. The lesson of patience and restraint had been paid for dearly. The story of Makari was over, but its meaning would linger. Chikni, hiding behind a curtain, watched the tragedy unfold. She saw the guards destroy the bed and end Makari's life. Guilt and sorrow overwhelmed her. Makari's wisdom had been true. Patience and self-control were not just rules, but survival itself. Chikni realized her greed had cost her a friend and a home. The most valuable thing in the palace wasn't the king's blood, but Makari's friendship and guidance. As dawn broke, Chikni knew she couldn't stay. The palace was now a place of regret, not opportunity. She had learned the hardest lesson: impatience and greed bring only ruin. Chikni left the palace, carrying the weight of her mistake. The loss of Makari would haunt her forever. The price of a single greedy act was a lifetime of regret. The royal chamber's comfort was gone, replaced by sorrow. The story's lesson was now written in Chikni's heart. Chikni slipped out of the palace at dawn, her heart heavy with guilt. The world outside seemed dull, her freedom tainted by loss. She found a new home in the fur of a stray dog. Life was harder, food scarce, and comfort gone. Chikni accepted her new life as punishment for her foolishness. She never forgot Makari's wisdom or the price of her greed. Each day, she tried to be more patient and careful. Sometimes, she gazed at the distant palace, remembering the silk sheets and her lost friend. "I'm sorry, Makari," she would whisper to the wind. The memory of her mistake became her constant companion. Chikni's escape saved her life, but her heart would always bear the scar. The lesson of the royal bed was never far from her mind. True wealth is wisdom and friendship, not fleeting pleasure. Chikni's story was now one of regret and resolve. The palace was grand, but her heart was marked by loss. The tale of Makari and Chikni would not be forgotten. Life in the palace returned to normal, but with new caution. The king ordered nightly inspections of his bed, determined never to be disturbed again. The story of the royal bite spread among the staff, a warning not to upset the king. For the humans, it was a tale of pest control and royal anger. But among the palace's tiny creatures, a different story was whispered. They spoke of Makari, the wise bedbug, and the danger of welcoming a greedy guest. The legend became a lesson. Caution and respect are vital for survival. The royal bed, once a symbol of comfort, now held a secret story. It was a tale of friendship betrayed and wisdom lost. The palace remained grand, but a quiet sadness lingered. The memory of Makari and Chikni lived on in two worlds, one of humans, one of creatures. The lesson was clear. Not all treasures are gold and silk. Sometimes the greatest loss is the friend you failed to value. The story of Makari and Chikni is simple, but its message is timeless. Chikni's choice, to ignore wisdom for greed, led to tragedy. The first lesson: impatience and greed bring only regret. The second: respect those who help you and value their guidance. Makari offered friendship and wisdom, but Chikni's selfishness destroyed both. When someone offers help, listen with gratitude. Betraying trust is a mistake with lasting consequences. This Panchatantra tale reminds us to be patient, control our desires, and cherish wise friends. A moment of greed can cause a lifetime of sorrow. True friendship is more precious than any treasure. By remembering Makari's fate and Chikni's regret, we can make better choices. Let our actions bring comfort, not chaos, to those around us. The lesson of the royal bed lives on. Choose patience, value wisdom, and honor your friends.